Greetings, everybody. I'm High Priest Aaron, Tribe of Levi, Tabernacle of God. High Priest Shinzo Abe, Tribe of Levi, Tabernacle of God. I'm High Priest Akie, Tribe of Levi, Tabernacle of God. I'm Sony Best Sounds. And the Prime Minister of Japan, my dad is Noah. My dad is Adam, and my dad is Jacob, whose name is also Israel. And I am one of his 12 boys who had tribes. And so, my God, I am created the entire earth about a little bit over 6,000 years, about a little bit over 5,000 years ago. And Adam was my dad, with Eve, my mom, and they had me, Noah. And Noah got into an ark of gopher wood to watch upon the mountains of Ararat, and with 3 sons and 3 sons' wives, and Noah and Noah's wife, all of the living creatures and all manners of food were saved, and then everybody else was destroyed in the flood. And so Noah was building a tower up to heaven, and everybody was speaking on one accord in one language. And what happened was God came down and decided to scatter all of the people and confuse the languages. So that's how we got 195 countries and over 195 languages. So Japan is still there. Mind you, I'm the High Priest Aaron, Tribe of Levi. So my dad Abraham has a covenant with God that we will always inherit the land, the promised land. And so and that Abraham's children will be many. So Abraham turns into Jacob, and Jacob's name turns from Jacob to Israel. And Israel had me, Joseph, and me as Joseph. I went to like slavery inside of Egypt, and then it was like a form of slavery, and then so I stayed in Egypt for a little bit. Then I ended up being like number 2 in charge in Egypt, with the Pharaoh being like a little bit above me. So it was the Pharaoh, and then it was me. But this is real life. And then for a time, I invited my family from Canaan to Egypt, and then it was cool. But then the Pharaoh changed on me after the Pharaoh died, and a new Pharaoh came, and then he tried to impose slavery upon me, the Hebrews, the Jews. And so what happened was, and that's Noah, that's me, that's literally me. And so what happened was, God did many wonders in Egypt and called the Jews, the Hebrews, out of Egypt, and killed the Pharaoh and all his armies. So that's what happened for following this. And so we carried Joseph out of Egypt, his remains with us, and we went through the wilderness. I'm High Priest Aaron of Goshen, Egypt, and by way of Canaan. And Moses got us out of Egypt with God. And so I'm very thankful for that. We went through the wilderness for 40 years, and then we got into a process where I went up on a hill and to get baptized and born again. I wake up in Japan. robot human service provider. In Japan, I wake up in the United States of America. I'm a African American paraplegic man. I wake up in Egypt. I'm the high priest. I wake up in every 195 countries on the land created by God at the same time. It's the dry land created by God. So I wake up in every country on the dry land created by God, and I'm still high priest Aaron. Tribe of Levi, Tabernacle of God. So I have to put all of my talent at the top. I have to always have a congregation in the fellowship, which means I always have to sit with the center. I always have to sit with the leaders of the country, and then I'll always have to sit with the churches and the synagogues, which belongs to me. They're my properties, and then I always have to sit with my wisdom and my upbringing and my talent, and so I always have to sit with the prime minister office. Because there's a difference between the state and the emperor, which has it's his own god, his own gods. And so because I have my own god and I'm Noah's son, I always got to sit with the prime minister only. And so I'm always the prime minister of Japan because of Noah, my dad. And so I wake up, I'm a Cherokee Indian, African American, in the United States of America, African American paraplegic man, but when in terms of Japan, I'm what's considered to be a robot, and I have access to my mobility device. I just need a service provider, and so I'm growing up in 195 countries on the dry land created by God, that's partially established as the United States. But the United States is not the only person that's established here. You got China establishing a large group of businesses, business licenses, and are staying to ourselves here. We've got Japanese towns that's around the area that are establishing a large group of businesses, and we stay to ourselves here. You got Korean towns out here that are establishing a large group of businesses, and we stay to ourselves out here. And then besides Chinatown, Japanese town, and Koreatown, we got that's pretty much it. But a lot of the people from other cultures come out here. You got Indian cuisine. You can go to Indian restaurants. A lot of Mexican restaurants. Mexico has a lot of property out here in the area established as the United States. But you still got to think about Adam. You still got to think about what God is talking about as far as you having to tend the fruit trees, the seed in itself, the grass, and the herb yielding seeds. You have to still do these things today. You still have to think about what Adam had to go through when he had to name every living creature on earth. And what Adam had to go through when he had to name all of the fowls on earth. You got to think about what Noah had to go through when he had to keep all of the living creatures, the fowls, the beasts, the creeping things, 2 of every sort, both male and female. And then 7 clean female fowls of the air, and 7 clean male fowls of the air, and 2 unclean fowls of the air males, and 2 unclean fowls of the air females for sacrifices. You got to think about what I had to go through as Levi to establish all of the churches and the synagogues and keep God's temporary houses on earth. And so I'm sitting here in 195 countries with my parents, and we're going to school, and then I get kidnapped. I got taken. The person who wanted to kidnap me, they wanted to take the tabernacle from me. They wanted to take the actual tabernacle of God from me. So I'm sitting there, and they're taking it from me piece by piece, but I can't give it to them. I have to veil it. I have to cover it. But they're taking all of the veil off of it, and they were promising an opportunity to go to court. But I never got an opportunity to go to court. So justice was never served. I ended up losing the entire tabernacle of God. I ended up losing the altar, the collection plate. I ended up losing the high priest clothes, the Ark of the Covenant, the candlelight, the incense plate, the showbread plate. I ended up losing an entire tabernacle tent. I ended up losing the Ten Commandments. I ended up losing the entire way to heaven, the entire way in heaven, the entire way of all of the to get all of the treasures in heaven. I ended up losing the Torah. I ended up losing the Holy Bible. I ended up losing just so many different things. Well, I didn't lose them. It was taken. It was pillaged. My mom was killed. My sisters and brothers were killed. Just a lot of people inside of my house was killed in this process from 1993 to 2022. And so I want to take some time to say I pay a lot of respects um, to Shinzo Abe, who I am in Tokyo, Japan. I'm so sorry for what happened to you, the entire collective body of Shinzo Abe. I've been just staying focused on what it takes to get to heaven and heaven with treasures amongst so many people who are discriminative against Jews. They do not care about the tribe of Levi, and they do not care about the tribe of Judah, and they know that you're the tribe of Judah, and they know that I'm the tribe of Levi, but they do not care about us. And then a lot of people that do not care about Japanese, regardless of us being Jews, and regardless of us being in those countries by way of just life, BC Tower of Babel, after BC Tower of Babel, they don't care about God. They don't, so they do not care about Japanese at all. They don't care about Jews, they don't care about Christians, and they do not care about Japanese. So since they do not care about Japanese more so than Jews and Christians, it's hate, it's hatred, and they have to kill Japanese. And so I want to pay a lot of respects to Shinzo Abe, because a lot of Americans just do not, respect anything that has to do with Japan or Japanese at all. And so for me to be an African American with my papers, causes and effects, but an actual Japanese and an actual Jew and an actual Christian with the church and with God, and an actual robot considered to be in Japan, if you look at just the service provider of the mobility device, it's very hard for me. So I just continue to do work and to work through the situation with getting more judgment with God. So updates, I'm still with Akie Abe. I still love Akie Abe. Still working on trying to get some things together. I want to present a son with Akie Abe, Sony High Priest Aaron Levi, and we'll call him Sony High Priest. And I'm in the process of getting him some things, some thoughts for him to think on in his subconscious and conscious mind, and so he can grow up to be a responsible person that's like, worldwide in 195 countries. And so we're transferring the court from the United States of America through the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court is just the dry land. So anything that happens on the dry land, wherever it happens, the crime happens at, that's where the court takes place. But you can go into the U.S. Supreme Court if you're in this area of the gardens and hear the verdict. So the court now is taking place in Japan at the U.S. Supreme Court, and I'm High Priest Shinzo Abe. I'm charging Joe Biden with slavery, but I'm also charging him with home invasion, murder, and slavery as well. So I got criminal charges and civil charges pressed on him. I filed the all points bulletin. I said that he murdered me, Shinzo Abe, in Nora, Japan. And I also said that he murdered Chantel Stokes at 1324 Mariposa Street, Rodale, California, 94572. Darren Stripling at 1324 Mariposa Street, Rodale, California, 94572. And kidnapped and murdered my mom, Helen Grace Stripling, in Las Vegas, Nevada. Helen Grace Stripling with Cloud Smith for a house in Las Vegas, Nevada. Stay tuned, it's going to get interesting.